Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening: a last-hour sell-off in a volatile session pushes the markets to close in the red. Mid-cap see sharper cuts. The volatility index surges to a two-year high. RBI to make a fourth attempt to infuse liquidity in the market through a bond buyback, says will purchase 40,000 crore rupees worth of government securities on the 30th of May. Bonds hold steady. 4,100 crore rupees worth of block deals closed today. Promoters and foreign investors in a slew of companies, including Timken India and PB Fintech, cash in on the recent market rally. LIC eyes a foray into the health insurance space. Chairperson says there will be a natural choice once composite licenses are approved. Adds the insurance giant will explore acquisitions as well. The National Investigation Agency conducts raids in 15 locations in connection with the fake job scam. 5 people are arrested for their alleged involvement in human trafficking of Indians to countries like Cambodia and Laos. Victims say they were forced to carry out cyber fraud at gunpoint. Israeli tanks roll into the city of Rafah in Gaza despite international condemnation of the attack on a designated safe zone, killing 45 people yesterday. Spain, Norway and Ireland formally recognized the Palestinian state, widening the European Union's rift with Israel. Cyclone Remal triggers multiple landslides in Mizoram. At least 15 people dead. This includes 11 deaths in a stone quarry in Aizawl. Prime Minister Modi and TMC Supremo Mamata Banerjee hold multiple rallies in and around Kolkata ahead of the last phase of polling. 9 seats in West Bengal go to the polls on the 1st of June. Trinamool had won all of them in 2019. Well, first up, the day's trading action. The Nifty and the Sensex ended 0.25% in the red amidst high volatility. The Nifty failing to hold on to 22,900. It slipped over 100 points from the intraday highs. The mid-caps did underperform the blue chips today. That's the Nifty down 44 points. The Sensex closing 220 points lower. The Nifty Bank also in the red, as was the Nifty mid-cap index, which lost about 500 odd points today. The volatility index, by the way, surging to a 2-year high. Prashant is standing by now to wrap up the details. Prashant, another volatile session and another bout of last hour selling.
It started slow and it remained slow and quiet for most of the session. It was only in the last 90 minutes or so that the market actually dipped into the red and went decisively in the negative territory in the last closing 15-20 odd minutes of trade. So, I mean, roughly about a 40-50 odd point cut in the Nifty. The Nifty Bank also sold off. I mean, that had been outperforming the Nifty on a day-to-day basis. But of course, in the broader scheme of things, the Nifty Bank has yet still not made a new high, whereas the Nifty has done so already. Mid-caps and small-caps was where the profit booking was more pronounced, almost a % cut each on both those two indices in terms of trade today. Large caps where there was pressure, Adani Ports was down, there was Power Grid which was lower, and there was Coal India which was under pressure. Some gainers coming through in names like Divi's Laboratories, SBI Life and HDFC Life, where there was some green. Broader markets more down than up clearly. What was under pressure? Names like Inox Wind, BDL, that is Bharat Dynamics, IOB, you had Power India, Shakti Pumps, and you had names which were higher as well. So there was Glenmark, which for the second day running did well, Sun TV, Nazara Technologies, Hudson Agro, Gensol, Glaxo, and a Jyoti CNC. So pretty sort of, very, very cautious kind of a close is what we've had as we get closer and closer into the election verdict. Exit polls on Saturday, and of course, actual results on Tuesday. Back to you.
Yes, volatile times. Prashant, many thanks. From the stock markets to the money markets, where the rupee and bonds largely remaining steady. This after the Reserve Bank announced a 40,000 crore rupee buyback of government securities. Now, remember, the last 3 buyback auctions by the RBI saw a tepid response. So what exactly is a bond buyback and how can it boost liquidity in the system? Ritu is standing by to explain. Ritu.
Well, the RBI has announced this 4th buyback of 40,000 crore worth of government bonds, despite what you were calling was a tepid, muted, or rather unenthusiastic response on the last 3 buybacks, which were attempted earlier this month. Now, the securities offered for buyback are 4 government bonds with maturity dates in the second half of this year itself. Now, why did the government announce this buyback? Well, the government is sitting on substantial cash balances with spending muted because of elections on one hand, and of course, that huge dividend from RBI RBI also coming in. So the government wants to use this cash balance to repay a portion of its outstanding borrowings prematurely and ease the pressure of any future repayments. Now, in an ideal situation, buybacks can also bring down the government's interest cost because new demand should push up bond prices and hence lower the yields because of the inverse relationship between the bond prices and yields. And since banks are the largest borrowers, or rather holders of government bonds, the buyback operation should also help infuse liquidity, which has been in deficit. So it sounds like a win-win, but in the actual scenario, the last 3 auctions have been a bit of a fail. Out of a total of 1.6 lakh crore of bonds that were offered for buybacks, RBI accepted bids worth only about 18,000 crores, which is barely 11% of the amount that was on offer, which brings us to the question about why the response has been so poor. Well, in the past 3 auctions, banks of course want to sell bonds at higher prices or lower yields for a profit, understandably, but for RBI this creates a problem, and that's because if RBI accepts bids at these higher prices and lower yields, it's going to signal to the markets that the RBI is comfortable with the lower yields or lower rates, and that represents easier financial conditions. And now with inflation running above 4%, RBI does not want the markets to start pricing in the rate cuts yet because it is not comfortable with yields front-running monetary policy actions. So, which is why we've been seeing this kind of a poor response, and an interesting space to watch out for, because after 3 muted auctions, it's going to be very surprising if the same, bonds that are being offered this time around as well are going to yield any different results.
All right, Ritu, we will have to wait to see. Many thanks for joining us with that explainer. LIC chairperson Siddharth Mohanty says the company's foray into the health insurance sector will be a natural choice once its composite license is approved. He was speaking to my colleague Yash Jain a day after the life insurer reported a steady set of numbers for Q4. Mohanty also said they were open to exploring acquisitions to build a health insurance business. Take a look.
This composite license comes, LIC natural choice will be to come into health space, because we cannot do all other general insurance like property, fire, all those things. We are not expert. No? Because health, we have some experience in health. We are selling health fixed benefit products. We have some products, fixed benefit, not indemnity product, unlike Mediclaim. So we have some experience, some expertise. So we are exploring both sides, organic as well as inorganic.
Well, that's LIC. Now, the board of Adani Enterprises has given the green signal to raise 16,600 crore rupees via QIP. This comes a day after Adani Group's power arm, Adani Energy, said that its board had approved fundraising of 12,500 crore rupees. Meanwhile, reports suggest that the group is planning to enter India's digital payment and e-commerce market. According to a report by Financial Times, Adani Group is considering applying for a license to operate on India's public digital payments network and is in discussion with banks to finalize plans for a co-branded credit card as well. A flurry of block deals worth over 4,100 crore rupees took place on Dalal Street today. Inox Wind, PB Fintech, Timken India and Concord Biotech have seen large block deals. This as promoters and foreign investors have cashed in on high valuations. Vivek is standing by with the details. Plenty on the block, Vivek.
Well, earnings season is coming to a close, and it's been a revival as far as the number of block deals that we are seeing. A lot of block deals happened in today's trading session. 4 large block deals, something that CNBC-TV18 highlighted even before they actually happened. Now, the first block deal that we're talking about is PB Fintech. We understand that today, Tencent Cloud Europe sold close to 1.2% stake in the company. Remember, they held a little over 6.2% stake. So after today's block deal, they continue to hold around 5% stake. And this is something that the street is looking at as an overhang. The stock was under pressure throughout the trading session. The second stock on the radar was Timken India. Now remember, as far as Timken India is concerned, June 2023, the parent, Timken Singapore, sold 10% of the total equity to bring down their holding to 57.7%. Today, there was another large block deal where once again, Timken Singapore sold almost 6.6% equity, bringing down their shareholding to a little over 51%. After today's block deal, Timken Singapore will continue to remain the simple majority shareholder in Timken, and it's believed that this removes a major overhang and as it is apparent that they would not be looking to further pare their stake lower. On the back of that, post the block deal, the stock recovered quite sharply and ended the day with sharp gains. We're also looking at Concord Biotech. We told you about this one as well. Ontario Inc. was the seller in this particular block deal. The company held, after today's block deal, almost 2% stake in the company. So once again, that also acts as an overhang. And the last stock on the radar was Inox Wind. This particular block deal, the promoter entity actually exited close to 5% stake, a little over 900 crores worth of equity changed hands. Now, what actually happened in terms of Inox Wind was the fact that Inox Wind recently declared a 3:1 bonus. That is 3 bonus shares for every share held in the company. Investors still haven't got the shares credited into their account, so that caused a bit of a technical confusion in the morning. However, what we understand from our sources is that the promoter entity was the seller in today's block deal of a little over 900 crore. The stock saw quite a bit of selling pressure throughout the trading session.
Vivek, many thanks for joining us. Here's the latest update on Cyclone Rimal, which has killed at least 16 people across Bangladesh and India after it made landfall last evening. Dozens have been injured in the affected areas and significant damage being reported in power lines. The West Bengal government has stepped up its rescue efforts. Flight services at the Kolkata airport have resumed after 50 flights were cancelled. Triggered by Cyclone Rimal, at least 15 people have died in multiple landslides in Mizoram, including 12 in a stone quarry in Aizawl. Search operations are underway to rescue people trapped under the debris. Officials have said that several highways and roads have been blocked due to the landslides. Chief Minister has chaired an emergency meeting to take stock of the situation. Now, the Indian Met Department has predicted above normal monsoon this year, but there are concerns around the distribution of rainfall. The Met predicts below normal monsoon in the northeast and a normal monsoon for northwestern parts of India. Manisha is standing by with a deep dive on the monsoon forecast. Manisha.
Thank you so much for that. Well, yes, India's weather department is predicting an above normal monsoon, but there are some concerns around distribution of the rainfall. Well, the Met Department is expecting the long period average at 106%, which is a bit more optimistic than 102% prediction from the private weather forecaster, which is SkyMed. This 106% prediction is the best India has seen since the pandemic. For 2022, the Met Department had predicted rainfall to be around the same mark, while it was below 100 in 2021 and in 2023 as well. And as you mentioned, the distribution of the rainfall is a key concern. Well, the central and southern peninsula is expected to get above normal rainfall, but the northwest is likely to get normal rainfall and the northeast is likely to get below normal rainfall. Here is how the probability chart also looks. It is like a normal rainfall of around 32%, above normal as well at around 30% as well, excess at around 29%. So there is a very little probability of a below normal or a deficient monsoon. A normal monsoon is extremely crucial for several crops in India, especially in Kharif, which is rice, cotton, pulses, maize, millets, among many others. The government has imposed export curbs on many of these crops. Sufficient rainfall could lead to a bumper yield, and this could help lift many of these export restrictions.
All right, Manisha, many thanks for joining us. The National Investigation Agency has arrested 5 people for their alleged involvement in international human trafficking and cybercrime fraud. The NIA says the accused were part of an organized trafficking syndicate. Yesterday, we brought you exclusive details on how youngsters from India were lured to Cambodia on the promise of a well-paying job and forced to carry out cybercrimes and the physical torture that they endured. So far, the government has rescued or repatriated over 700 Indians from Cambodia and Laos in the last few days. Parikshit is standing by now to take us through the details of the NIA's crackdown. Parikshit.
Well, over the last few days, it seems that there is a hub for cybercrime activities in an SEZ in Laos. Now, what these accused who have been arrested by the National Investigation Agency have revealed to interrogators that they used to facilitate the transfer and trafficking of Indian youth from different parts of the country. It could be Maharashtra, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat or Punjab, for that matter, even Delhi, to places in Thailand, Cambodia and Myanmar. And from there, there were foreign handlers who would further traffic these individuals into the Laos SEZ. The police in Visakhapatnam has told us that very often police in Cambodia, for example, were complicit with handlers or were aware of such scams actually taking place. These accused, who had been working for foreign handlers in countries like UAE and several South Asian countries, they used to lure youth by telling them that they would get lucrative jobs in countries like Bangkok and Singapore, and they would take lakhs of money for transferring them. Once these youth used to reach there, they were trafficked and made to work in places which looked like call centers, but are actually hubs for cyber crimes against Indian nationals. So that could be dating scams, that could be a cryptocurrency scam, a stock market scam as well. So all of these things are now being unearthed by the police. There were actually raids carried out at 15 locations in the country across 6 states by the National Investigation Agency, which comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Then you also had the different state police forces and central intelligence agencies. So this seems to be a major crackdown against these international criminal syndicates in which Indians are also involved. In fact, the Home Minister today going on record to say that over 27 lakh complaints of cyber frauds have been registered in the last 1 year alone. If you speak about the amount, the tune to which Indian nationals have been cheated in the last 1.5 years, that would be over 5,000 crores. And this is only through known complaints that have been registered with the police and security forces. The actual numbers we're not aware of.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Now, Israel continues to pound the city of Rafah in Gaza even after widespread condemnation of the attack. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu did admit that something went tragically wrong with the strike that reportedly killed over 45 civilians. As per UN data, around 1 million people have fled Rafah in the past 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Spain, Norway and Ireland have formally recognized the Palestinian state, further widening the European Union's rift with Israel.
In Rafah, we have already evacuated about 1 million uninvolved residents. And despite our utmost effort not to harm uninvolved residents, a tragic incident occurred yesterday. We're investigating the case. We will draw conclusions because this is our policy.
I condemn this in the stronger terms. It proves that there is no safe place in Gaza. And these attacks take place immediately after the International Court of Justice ordered it to stop all military activities in Gaza. And we have to intervene, and the only thing we can do, we at the European Union, is to participate on the reactivation of the opening of the border in Rafah.
Meanwhile, 18 people killed in a Russian missile strike that targeted a large store in Kharkiv in Ukraine. Separately, 3 people were killed and 6 injured after Russia attacked a southern region of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky said Russian forces had dropped about 3,200 guided aerial bombs on Ukraine this month, and that Kyiv did not have enough air defense missiles to stop the attacks on such a scale. Further, Ukraine has secured $1 billion in military aid from Belgium and Spain. Apple's iPhone sales in China witnessed a rebound after shipments rose 52% in the month of April. This comes after iPhone sales dropped drastically in January and February this year. Apple and its Chinese resellers have been reducing prices since the start of 2024. Apple has been seeing double-digit decline in sales after losing premium market share to companies like Huawei. The Indian IT industry is gripped by silent layoffs, where companies are asking employees to resign or are not renewing their contracts. According to data shared by All India IT and ITES Employees Union, around 20,000 techies lost their jobs in silent layoffs in 2023. According to another union, nascent information technology employees Senate, about 2,000 to 3,000 professionals lost their jobs in 2024 alone. Silent layoffs are seen as a strategy to let go of employees gradually and not together to avoid garnering attention. SpiceJet has rejected KAL Airways and Kalanidhi Maran's demand for more than 1,300 crore rupees in damages in their ongoing legal dispute. The airline has referred to these assertions as, and I quote, legally untenable, and said these claims had been rejected by the arbitral tribunal and the Delhi High Court. SpiceJet also says the matter is devoid of any merit. KAL Airways and Maran's demand is in addition to the pending dues of over 350 crore rupees. A bomb threat prompted authorities to evacuate all 176 passengers on board a Varanasi-bound Indigo flight before it took off from the Delhi airport. As per officials, the pilot found a tissue paper with the message "Bomb blasted 30 minutes." A video circulating on social media showed passengers deboarding the flight from the emergency door. Using a slide, the flight was moved to the isolation bay for further probe. The police said the threat turned out to be a hoax. Up next, infrastructure funds in India deliver bumper returns in the last 1 year, but investors turn cautious. A deep dive on the other side. Infrastructure funds in India have delivered bumper returns for investors in the last 1 year, but experts in the mutual fund industry remain cautious. Shivani Bazar standing by with more. Shivani, what are the top performing funds and why are experts cautious?
Well, with 74% average returns in the last 1 year, infrastructure funds are among the toppers on the mutual fund returns charts. According to data from Morningstar India, the inflows in the first 4 months of 2024 into the category have surpassed the inflows into the category in the entire years of 2022 and 2023. The total inflows charted by the category in calendar year 2022 stood at rupees 1160 crores, and in calendar year 2023, the inflows stood at 2359 crore rupees. Now, in comparison, the category has already seen inflows worth 3,376 crores in the first 4 months of 2024. This means that the inflows have tripled since 2022. The inflows are a direct result of the positive outlook of the sector and also the returns by these schemes. Some of these infrastructure funds are offering 80 to 90% returns in 1 year, like the Bandhan Infrastructure Fund or the DSP Tiger Fund or the Quant Infrastructure Fund. One of the big reasons for the eye-popping returns by these funds is government's push on infrastructure spending in the last 3 years. A record high budgeted spend of over 11 lakh crore has been carved out for FY25 as well. Investors naturally hope to ride the infra push by the government and make big gains through infrastructure funds. However, experts warn that investors should enter with full understanding of the cyclical nature and the risks involved in these funds, including regulatory changes, project delays, etc. Experts suggest that retail investors should not take more than 5% of exposure in their portfolio and approach these funds with caution.
Shivani, many thanks for joining us. Punjab goes to the polls on the 1st of June in the last phase of the general elections. The state, which sends 13 MPs to the Lok Sabha, is witnessing a four-way contest. The AAP and the Congress, which are part of the opposition bloc, are contesting all seats. The BJP, which has played a second fiddle to the Shiromani Akali Dal for close to 3 decades, is contesting all seats on its own. The Sukhbir Badal-led party walked out of the NDA in September of 2022. Abhimanyu gets us a deep dive on Battleground Punjab.
Well, Punjab is one of the few states in India where the party in power in the Legislative Assembly does not have an MP representing the state in the Lok Sabha. The Aam Aadmi Party will be trying to replicate its electoral success from the state elections and increase its vote share from 7.86% in 2019. With 8 of the 13 MPs from the state, from the Congress, the party is hoping for a clean sweep to prop up its electoral fortunes, but is facing an uphill task with many of its former state leaders already having switched to other parties. For the first time in decades, the BJP is contesting without an alliance with the Shiromani Akali Dal, and an absence of the SAD's rural support base, as well as a visible anger amongst the state farmers over the now revoked farm laws. The BJP is banking on support from urban areas, imports from other parties, and a sizable Hindu minority on several seats. Meanwhile, the Shiromani Akali Dal is facing an existential crisis with just 3 MLAs in the Punjab Assembly amidst infighting, defections and anger among farmers over its former alliance with the BJP. The state party is looking to salvage its fortunes by contesting alone and appealing to voters beyond its core Sikh constituency. Punjab is also the birthplace of BSP's founder Kanshi Ram, and while the party may have lost its vote share compared to the past decades, it may fragment votes to alter fortunes of other parties. Last but clearly not the least, the threat of Sikh separatists gaining vote share was stoked by the shocking victory of Simranjeet Singh Mann in the 2022 Lok Sabha by-polls in Sangrur, while this time around jailed radical Amritpal Singh is also in the electoral fray.
All right, Abhimanyu, many thanks for joining us. That is the latest as far as the Battleground Punjab is concerned. With that, it is time for us to wrap up Business 360. But before we go, here's a quick note. A daily wrap of the top headlines will hit your inbox every day before you call it a night. CNBC-TV18's daily newsletter on LinkedIn features the top 10 stories on markets, corporate updates, economic insights and financial highlights. So subscribe now, get the CNBC-TV18 edge. The news will continue after this short break.